A very good morning, students. Today we are going to see a topic oil circuit breaker. So, earlier we have discussed about the air circuit breaker. So, based upon the operating medium, the type of circuit breaker varies. It is an air, vacuum, or oil, or SF6 circuit breaker. So, based upon the circuit breaker types, the functionality get varies. Oil circuit breaker uses the oil as an medium for suppressing the arc current. We are going to see introduction, types, operation, construction, advantages and disadvantages. Overview of oil circuit breakers. Oil circuit breakers is such the type of circuit breaker which use oil as an dielectric or insulating medium for arc extinction. In oil circuit breaker, the contacts of the breaker are made to separate within an insulating oil. When faults occurs in the system, the contacts of the circuit breaker are open under the insulating oil, and an arc is developed between them. The heat of the arc is evaporated in a surrounding. The oil circuit breaker is divided into two categories. One is an bulk oil circuit breaker, low oil circuit breaker. As the name implies, bulk oil circuit breaker uses more amount of oil for the dielectric medium. The low oil circuit breaker uses less oil, or another name for the low oil is minimum oil circuit breaker. So this is the diagram of the circuit breaker. You could see the conductors are marked at the top of the circuit breaker. Then bushings. Then there are two contacts. One is a fixed contact and moving contact. Those contacts are submerged in the oil. So when the arc occurs, the dielectric oil will suppress those arcs. So the oil circuit breakers are somewhat bulky in size because of the oil tanks and the periodical maintenance required for the circuit breaker because the oil loses the dielectric strength after several reclosing and opening of the circuit breaker. This is what happening inside the oil circuit breaker. You could see when the fixed contact and moving contact are open, the oil vapor bubble are produced. So those bubbles are getting suppressed in the dielectric oil. So the huge amount of heat will be also produced. So that heat will makes the oil to lose its dielectric property after some time. So we have to periodically check the dielectric strength of those oils. If it loses its dielectric strength, we have to change that oil so that the reliability of the circuit breaker will be maintained. This is the structure of the minimum oil circuit breaker. You could see that the level of oil which used in the circuit breaker is comparatively less with the previous type. Here also the fixed contact and moving contact are submerged in the oil, but the chamber is somewhat a narrow one so that the oil level is reduced in the minimum oil circuit breaker. So the points which have been marked are gas vent terminal, then arc chamber, and then mainly pros lane supporting chamber, then operating mechanism for moving the fixed contact and moving contact, and there is a drain at the bottom to refuel the oil, then rod, piston, terminal, moving contact, fixed contact, then oil, then finally there is a device called breather which allows the air to flow inside the oil circuit breaker. Advantages of oil circuit breaker. The oil circuit breaker has a dielectric strength and provides insulation between the contact after the arc and has been extinguished. The oil circuit breaker used in the circuit breaker provides a small clearance between the conductors and the earth components. The hydrogen gas performed in the tank, which has the high diffusion rate and good cooling properties. Drawbacks. The oil used in the oil circuit breakers are inflammable, hence cause fire hazard. The risk of formation of explosive mixture with air. Due to the decomposition of the oil, the carbon particles is generated which polluted. Maintenance. After the air circuit breaker, this oil circuit breaker has interrupted by the short circuit current. Sometimes their contacts may get burned due to the arcing. Also, the dielectric oil gets carbonized in the area of contacts, thereby losing the dielectric strength. This results in the reducing the breaking capacity of the breaker. Therefore, the maintenance of the oil circuit breaker is essential for checking and replacement of the oil and contacts. These are all some diagrams which shows the structures of the oil circuit breaker. You could see there how bulky it is, and also the sealing must be properly provided. If the oil circuit breaker loses its sealing, then spillage of oil occurs that will looks untidy, that will lead to fire hazards too. So we came to the end of the session. We discussed what is an oil circuit breaker, what is the importance of oil circuit breaker, what are all the types of oil circuit breaker. So in that we discussed bulk oil circuit breaker and minimum oil circuit breaker and their operating. So thank you for your patient listening. We'll be discussing another interesting topic in the upcoming video. Thank you all.